One of the most infamous runs in the game is the run you do with a Maul bear. So not a Fireclaw bear, not a Shockwave bear, because I've done that one before, but a Maul bear. As you can tell, things start off rough in the stony field, where we get chased back all the way into the cold plains by some moon clans, because Werebear is a level 6 skill, so until then you can be a werewolf, but it's not the same. And you can reach level 6 pretty easily. We almost die though. So we do hit the level up and turn into a bear. So one thing that's changed with the bear, it used to be that the IAS was purely dependent on your weapon IAS. So if you had like a 6-socket shield face blade, you'd have very fast mauls. However, they changed it so that your base speed is a bit faster, but all your IAS works, but you can't ever reach those super crazy speeds anymore as far as I know. But as a bear, we do end up kicking their ass. So yeah, early game bear got a bit buffed by the increased speed for your claws, because things used to be so horrible. I mean, I'm talking like grow a beard in the time you can land a punch, terrible. Not that this is much better. For those not in the know, this is one of the hardest builds in the game to put through. This took me so friggin' long, it's insane. I mean, this build had me quitting the game multiple times. That's the kind of run this is. I do end up farming a Tull and an Ed rune and some other runes as well. There's a lot of counters in this one, so I make a Steel and a Stealth and head towards Andariel, who I basically pimp slap in all the right places, to put it politely for YouTube. And I end up making a Tell Crystal. So this is just 226 poison damage, it's just damage. And this is more like how it used to be. Like the speed you see now with Duriel's Holy Freeze is still faster than what a Werebear used to do in LOD. But yeah, we are very dependent on the poison here. Because well, we're all poison and it's running through Duriel's veins. And there she blows, we find a ring and some light gauntlets, but nothing too worthwhile. As a general rule of thumb in these videos, if I don't show what the result of a rare drop is, it wasn't good. For Act 3 we head towards the council, and at this point you can already tell I have 535 HP, which is kinda nuts. And that's the only thing this build does very well, to be honest, just have a lot of HP. But yeah, without the Tall Crystal Sword this would have been such a mess. Even in normal, like having this much trouble in normal is not a good sign. And here we have Mephisto. I do need to clear out all the Bloodlords though, because otherwise I am going to be a splatter of blood myself. And slowly but surely I am getting through them. Mercenary goes for a nap. So anyway, we have Maul going now. Maul is a skill that just gets you more damage and attack rating with a green ball besides you. You can see that on the bear, and that's kinda it. You're just punching stuff a lot. I mean, I'm trying to be like, oh wow, this build is amazing and stuff, but I'm gonna be honest, this is just, I turn into a bear and I punch stuff. I'm so glad they reworked the bear in Diablo 3 and 4. Well, 4, there's no Druid in 3. But I'm gonna try not to shit on it too much, because I know there are people out there that love this. So we are just mauling our way at Mephisto's middle area here, letting the poison tick down. He's farting all around us, but we are getting through it. Mercenaries having some trouble, that's what potions are for. And this is how a lot of this run looked. I just shockwaved my way through. I know I said no shockwave, but you need it for crowd control. You're not gonna make it through it without it. And after the Chaos Sanctuary, we head towards Diablo, who we also just ticked down with some poison. And as long as he's green, we are dealing damage. We do need to dodge the lightning as usual. And I end up luring him out of his pentagram, because it's just easier to fight him out in the open. We're gonna go ahead and pretend that I have a lot of life left there. Nothing going on here, nothing at all whatsoever. And he really needs to stop with the fucking lightning, because I just can't deal him damage this way. We got very close to dying again. So I decided to get my mercenary back. You can't shockwave the boss, so that's disappointing. I ended up having to dodge so much lightning that I even ran out of stamina. And after what was one of the longest Diablo fights I have ever done, we end up taking him down. And after Diablo, it's of course time for the Eldritch farm. As you can tell, I'm just stunning them. I very much felt like the mercenary in this run. I usually spend my time throwing shockwave at things while the mercenary poked them down. And even though I said this is not a shockwave druid, you kind of can't get around it. And as you can tell, the damage is, yeah, let's call it not great. Let's call it that. And that's just the thing with this build, like Maul could use like a base damage boost or something. Like if Maul added, I don't know, like +5 base damage every level, it would be reasonable, I guess. The one thing this build does very well though is the Ancients. You can just stun them. Oh, and here I am switching between the two weapons. I want to use the Maul to deal the damage, but I want to use the Crystal Sword to deal the poison damage. And I'm using Heart of Wolverine because I'm already at 660 life and you don't need that much in normal. And this build needs all the damage and help it can get. Because, well, if you want to do this build, just know that you're in it for the long haul. This is a very hard run to do. But as you can tell, I can just stun the agent, so that's nice. Like, I'm just stun locking Talik. And same for Bale. Like, the one thing this build does is just not die. There's no damage, there's no good AoE. Like, Shockwave is nice and all, but it just doesn't deal damage. I miss the old Shockwave bug. So there used to be a patch where you had Shockwave and it dealt a lot of damage. I don't know what they changed, but I loved it and I wish they would change it back because Shockwave was just a real viable build and it made the Werebear playable. And as always, if Bale spawns a clone, head back to town, wait 8 seconds and come back. The clone will be gone as long as your town portal is far enough away. So here we have a clone, we walk away, wait 8 seconds and come back and no more clone. Just a nice little trick. It has to do with how the level is designed and built, but basically what you need to know is just walk away, wait 8 seconds, come back. So here we have the gear that we use to beat Bale normal. It's nothing too special, but all this build wants is resists and damage. Our damage is so bad, like we're dealing 233 to 360 and it's like, this is not ideal. So I decide to go farm some Mephisto on normal, just as always, just respawn the map till you get a really good one. I end up finding an angelic armor, which I can combine with an angelic ring to get a lot of attack rating. After that it's time for the nightmare counter, so here I'm just looking for an Am rune and a Tear rune, so I get some crushing blow. Soul rune is also very welcome. I find an angelic weapon and I'm like checking out what it does and it's so bad, it's just unusable. I also find a field plate, which is a rock fleece. And I spend a lot of time drinking rejuvenation pots because I have a lot of life, but I don't have any resist, I don't have any damage. So things are risky and not gonna lie, not the smoothest run ever. But I do end up getting my runes and making it towards Antariel. And here we just have a battle of the poison behemoths. But I do end up taking her down, almost find a razor tail, which would have been nice. Just a bunch of dexterity gets me attack rating, so... Like the pierce doesn't matter or anything. Here's me on 2 life against Radamant and on 1 life. But I do go back eventually. I gamble this amulet and then I head towards the Cow King. What I'm trying to do here is farm that set. So I want a set sash and I want set leather gloves. And I'm basically just letting my merc poke them down. And I end up finding a ethereal partisan and I end up rolling 4 sockets into it, so that is the best merc weapon base I can get for now. So I put an insight in there, a Rel Teartal Soul, and I don't need the mana. Could this be a Tails Amulet or an angelic? Please be angelic. It's an Errata, so that's useless. Which brings us to Duriel. And at this point I have 1270 HP and all I need is patience and time basically. Although I do end up getting my life total very low multiple times. I mean, bots just don't really work when you have this much HP, especially when you hit like 2000, 3000 HP. Health potions just kind of stop being relevant. And even though this fight looks like I'm fighting Uber Duriel, this is definitely just Nightmare Duriel getting ticked down by open wounds and poison damage. And I find a large siege bow and that is Cliff Killer, and this is finally a weapon that's fast, gets me life and deals some damage. So I respec for it. So this is the build. I'm just into Werebear, I'm into Maul, I'm into Shockwave, and I'm into Heart of Wolverine. That's it, that's just all there is to it with this one. Like build wise this is nothing special. Now we fight Stormtree and I'm finally dealing some damage. Emphasis some, because I still end up just shockwaving a bunch and letting my merc deal a lot of the damage. And same here, just shockwave and then slap them. And also just need to kite them out one by one, but it's not really going well because the Heart of the Wolverine keeps luring them out altogether. And yeah, we are just having this much trouble in Nightmare, so yeah, I'm terrified for hell, not gonna lie. There's a well here, so what you can do is just get cursed and then walk back every 10-15 seconds and just the well refills. And you can get rid of your curse again, so fighting next to a well is a very nice thing to do. And at this point I'm just like, well, there's one here, let's just kill him and be like, fuck that, I just want my Kalim's flail and want to get out of here. Like, I do not deal enough damage to deal with the Council or Nightmare, which, not gonna lie, pretty damn sad. Oh, by the way, if you want to attack with a bow on a werewolf or a werebear, you do need to equip arrows to it, otherwise the thing just goes, I can't use this, I don't know how to do this. I don't know, I'm an idiot. But if you equip arrows or bolts, it also works with crossbows. One of the best weapons in the game for this build is actually the Barisa de Cannon, which basically means the Blizzard Cannon, I'm told. My Japanese is not that good, like I'm an anime dude and stuff, but I don't know that much Japanese. And we finally get one down and we find Kalim's flail and I'm like, fuck this, I'm out. So I smack the compelling orb, leave the council alive for another day, and head towards Mephisto, where the rest of the council just annoys me and follows me along, so I'm cursed fighting Mephisto. And everything is just such a mess. So one of the big things that you can tell in Diablo, if you're dealing enough damage, shit shows like this just don't really happen. You're like, okay, I have a problem, I kill the thing, splice it up and be like, okay, this is done. And go to the next problem. But because this build deals so little damage, like the council follows you, the other council doesn't die, and things just keep on escalating and being messy and troublesome and horrible. But I do end up isolating Mephisto on his own. And here you can tell, like, I have some crushing blow, I have the heart of Wolverine, I have the might aura, and we're kind of dealing some damage. I mean, considering I've trashed every sense of survivability except for my life total, this is still, yeah. Okay, so I've been told to not say anything if you can't say anything nice. I'm just gonna say his life total is a thing and the rest is also there. Man, I'm really trying not to shit on this build, but it's so bad. In Act 4 we are greeted by some souls and we walk away again. And we are greeted by some more souls. There's a whole lot of soul in these planes of despair. And here we are stun locking Israel. Well, his friends, and the mercenary deals with Israel. And then it's time for the River of Flame. Do we get a good rune? We want something that gets us a rune word. And we get a Hell rune. Yeah, that could happen. And here we have Diablo Nightmare. And now we're at the point of the game where the bosses just aren't that relevant anymore. You're definitely playing against the areas and not so much the bosses in Diablo. So you could just stand next to Diablo and just slap. And Crushing Blow, Poison and Open Wounds and Heart of Wolverine together will kill him. There we have it, Diablo down, and then we head towards Act 5 where things really start to show that the wheels are just coming off at this point. I mean, the amount of times we have near-death experiences in Nightmare Act 5 is kind of insane, especially considering we have a ton of HP to work with. I mean, if Blizzard is ever gonna do anything to this game again, which I highly doubt, this game needs help. So I decide to go back towards the counters to try and farm some weapons, and I find a Bone Snap. And I immediately upgrade that to a War Club. And it requires a lot of strength. So we respec again. And here's the build once more. And now we go and get, well, some damage at least. Dodge some souls. And you can tell that the Bone Snap was kind of designed for a build like this. Because we get a bunch of resist, some crushing blow, lots of damage. I mean, it wasn't great, but it worked. Got the job done for sure. And here once again the Ancients. We can just stun lock them again. It'll take a bit, but it should work. Another nice thing here is that the Heart of the Wolverine is just a nice target for them. So we end up just stun locking them and they're targeting the Heart of the Wolverine and stuff. And slowly but surely we do stun lock them down. As the poison ticks as well. And the stun lock ends up going just all the way. And we beat the Ancients. And are greeted once again by souls. Because why wouldn't we? And there's some more souls in the throne. Just lots of souls, lots of everywhere. And after that we have Crushing Blow, Poison, we can take Bale down. We find a Lem rune from Bale, which finally gets us our first real piece of gear, a Treachery. This gives us Fade, 30 cold resist and 45 IAS. We also get very close to a Jalas. We find a rare Totemic Mask. And Jalas is just like the end game, the not so futso item for this build, so I would have loved to find that. And I start making my way into Hell, where we find a Cudgel, which is a Dark Clan Crush. And you're just thinking like, why would you use that over a Bone Snap? I'm not going to. I'm going to use it to buff. And with the extra buff in hand, we go towards Andariel. So I get +2 skills on my Spirit and on my Werebear transformation. And it's the little things, but it does add up after a while. And here you once again can see that because I'm not dealing enough damage, everything just becomes such a giant shit show. There's a ton of stuff there that just needs to not be there. So I end up running back and luring them out one by one with the mercenary. And just trying to get through them that way. But the poison rain from Andariel really not helping here. Mercenary having a rough go of it. And it just doesn't matter how much HP you have. If you stand in poison long enough in this game, you will end up losing a lot of life. But for the third time in this run, we do poison Andariel down, and we head towards Act 2, where I want to have fun with this build, but I'm having so many near death moments here. And this build just needs help. The one thing it does do well though is the Maggot Lab, because you just have Shockwave and you can just shotgun everything in there. So even the fanaticism stuff is just like, well, you can only attack me one at a time, and that's the only fucking thing this build can do, is just one at a time. Same goes for the Claw Viper Temple, you can just lure them to the door, and my mercenary just found a hole in the door and just goes all the way. We do end up fighting Saigon Gloves, and I had a Saigon Helm as well, so now I get 554 attack rating, plus 10 life leech, plus 30 IAS. And with that and the treachery, this build is finally starting to do something. Oh, it also almost died, so. But between 10 life leech, oh, I also find a second pair of gauntlets a few minutes later, which I thought was pretty funny. But between 10 life leech and 30 IAS and fade and a bone snap, we are kind of starting to get going. But I do end up needing to go back towards Nightmare, towards the Terror Zones, because I was not getting through the Arcane Sanctuary. And in the Terror Zones I find a Grand Crown, which also has a lot of life and dexterity. And dexterity is great because it gives you attack rating. And even in the Terror Zones we are having a lot of trouble with hard fights. But that's just a lesson you can learn from this run. If you're in trouble, just go back a bit. I was not getting through the Arcane Sanctuary at all. Like the souls and the ghosts and stuff that just completely dead stopped me. Oh, I also found a Lamb Room, by the way. And I just needed to survive, so I needed to go back. And I went to the Terror Zones. And if that's not good enough, you can go back to Act 3 Nightmare. You could go back to Normal. Like, there's always something to go back to and level up on. And here you can really tell that my resistances just aren't that great. I have 2.2k HP, and even then the lightning bolts are still just murdering me. But we do end up making it to Duriel, and as always the boss fights in this game just aren't that hard. Like the normal ones are. Like Diablo normal is a very difficult fight. Bill normal can be very difficult depending on the build you're playing. And Andariel normal is just like, do I die or do I not make a video here? And you have Mephisto, and all of the normal fights are just pretty dang hard. But then you have the Nightmare fights and your character just kind of starts functioning and stuff, and the bosses aren't skilled enough up for that. So the boss fights fall off, and the hell bosses are basically just big loot pinatas that take a few seconds to kill. And I've been getting told this all year, but yes, I now know they change colors between difficulties. And in the Flayer jungle, I end up finding a Feral Axe that's Etheria, and like, why are you showing this? That is one of the best oath bases in the game for this build. The Feral Axe is very powerful, it's fast, it deals a lot of damage. It's exactly what a build like this wants. But I do need to farm some runes for it, so what I decide to do is just finish this act out. So, gotta kill the council first. And gotta get rid of Bone Fang, who once again is a problem that only exists because I'm just not dealing enough damage. But I'm able to take at least 2 of the normal ones. I'm also kind of using the Heart of Wolverine here to bait them a bit. And together with the Mercenary I am just able to take them down. But most of the damage is really coming from the Mercenary here. But I do end up taking the council down. And the Rounds of Hate is filled with the other things that you really hate to see. It's a lot of dolls. So I end up having to use my mercenary to poke them all down one by one by one by one. And then we make it towards Mephisto, who at this point also is just a big loot pinata. Which I say proudly, but my resistances are really bad, so I'm taking hundreds of damage every hit. And I decide to go back towards the council. I find a Key of Terror, and in my mind I'm like, can this build do the Ubers? And I'm just gonna spoil it now, I did not end up doing Ubers because this build made me want to quit the game. So, definitely not pulling it towards Ubers. And I ended up just not finding enough runes and taking way too long to get the runes. So I decided to just move on towards the River of Flame and see if I could get something from the Hellforge. And I ended up finding an rune, which is half of a Maul rune, but I ended up using it for a Crescent Moon. And I realized later that the Mercenary can also use a Treachery, so I ended up making a Treachery for him as well. And after that it's time for the Chaos Sanctuary, where I as usual just lure things out one by one, stun them and then poke them down. And I should have gone for the Barbarian Mercenary a lot faster in this. His crowd control with the taunt and stuff is really something that adds on to this build. Like the damage is bad no matter what you do, So adding might doesn't make that much of a difference, but things getting lured toward a mercenary and just being crowd controlled by him really make things a lot easier. So I definitely should have gone for the barbarian mercenary earlier. I think a Shellco Eldritch armor on him would have also been very good, but I didn't realize it until too late. And I do think treachery is better on him. But fanaticism would have been fun, like get might, Heart of the Wolverine, fanaticism, still hit like a little kid. Would be nice. And you can really tell the difference with the mercenaries. Like I was super struggling with the first one with the pike mercenary, and now I'm at least doing reasonable to okay-ish. Oh, I end up finding a Geats as well. Not a great one, but a Geats. Exactly middle of the class Geats. And then it's time to fight Lord the South. And once again, you can just tell the mercenary doing a lot more work here than I am. But we are steadily getting through it. And at this point I'm okay, like the Chaos Sanctuary is going well. It's not going fantastic or anything, but it's going well. And I figure, okay, this might just be good enough to finish out the game, and I might not need the oath and stuff, but yeah, you'll see when we get to Act 5. Oh, also I just pressed the button and the problem goes away. And then we fight Diablo. And I have to give massive credits to the mercenary, he is just flat out tanking him. But basically this is just a game of, do I hit my crushing blow? Mercenary does end up going down though, but I get him back. But I'm getting hit so little that even my fate is just gone at this point. Which is a good sign. If I'm not triggering fate, it means I'm not getting hit, which means I am going to survive this game. But you can tell I'm having a really hard time to put my paw in very questionable places on Diablo's body. And here we have Act 5, and this is really the point where I decided, like, I need more damage. This can't go on like this. I will die if I do this. Because those guys were just murdering me. So I start farming the counters. And I start farming some more. And I just start crafting up the runes. And I farm some more. And some more. And I'm taking all those Am runes, all those Oz runes, all those Ral runes. And I find a second Key of Terror and a Paul rune. And I end up just crafting the runes. Slowly but surely we are crafting towards them. So I go towards the end of it and I end up making a Maul rune. And that makes me very happy because now I can make Shield Pearl Maul, which is Oath. And this is a weapon. Like you can think of like the scene where the guy's like, you call that a knife? This is a knife. Well, this is a weapon. Also, I'm level 80 and struggling to get through the main game, which is definitely also a thing that happened in this life. So yeah, here once again just speccing into the build. I decide to go for the Grizzly Bear as well. I need all the diversions I can get. I end up finding a unique ring. It's a Carrion Wind. It's okay. It gets you a lot of poison resist, which is nice. And 10 life leech is also very good. Now we are dealing some actual damage. And I really enjoy just having one more meat shield in the bear. Also now we can call ourselves the Bear Bros. Or the Bear Boss. Anyway, with 3 meat shields I do just punch the ancients. And even with all of this trouble, all of this farming, it's still just okay. Like this is good enough to beat the game. Like when you have an oath and a treachery, you will be able to beat the game. But yeah, this build needs help. Like the Maul skill needs so much buff. We can give it more damage, we can give it more IAS, we can just give it base damage. That would be really cool. We could give it more synergies because now it just has Shockwave as its synergy, I believe. And it's just like, well, give it something. Like I want to play as the cool bear, you know, like come on, make it worth my while to do this and not like toe curdling horrible of an experience. I mean, I meant what I said earlier in the video. This build made me want to play other games. Also, we're pounding Maddock to absolute shit. That was so satisfying after all that nonsense. It was so good. But what I ended up doing for this run is just record 1 or 2 acts, get sick of it, record another character, get that done, then do 1 or 2 acts of this, record another character. Like this entire run took me like 4 months or something to complete. Like the last 5 or 6 videos were all recorded during this run. And I just did not have it in me to do like 3-4 acts of this on a day. Like I needed to stop myself from playing this, otherwise I would just start hating the game. And the bear just doesn't deserve that. It's such a cool looking bear. Like I'm Ghost Bear, how is that not cool? Anyway, here is my gear. We have an oath. We have a Saigon's helmet. We have this amulet with some resistances. We have a treachery. We have Saigon's gloves. We have this crappy ring. We have this belt. Like I've That's the other thing I do have to say though. I found nothing that I didn't farm my absolute shit for up. Also, this is my resist with Fade. It's still just so bad. Here's the rest of my stats. Here's my skills. If you want to do this, beware. It's a hard run. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.